you guys? I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call of Alderman.
Alderman Hazel.
Here.
Alderman Kinsella.
Here.
Alderman Schmidt.
Here.
Alderman Bittner.
Here.
Alderman Randall.
Here.
Alderman Tyler.
Here.
Alderman Anthony.
Here.
Alderman Ovian.
Here.
Alderman Silsby.
Here.
Alderman Dintelman.
Here.
Alderman Seibert.
Here.
Alderman White.
Here.
Alderman Galletti.
Here.
Alderman Elmore.
Here.
Alderman Wigington.
Here.
Alderman Musgrove.
Here. Aldermen are all present. Roll call of department heads.
City Attorney Horner.
Here.
City Treasurer Hart. Police Chief Clay. Fire Chief Poor. Ken Vaughn. Royce Carlisle. Jamie Matrit. Tim Gregowitz. Jim Schneider. Leander Spearman. Chuck Schaefer. Bob Sabo. Debbie Belleville. Nissa McCaskill.
Mike Parks is here for Chuck Schaefer. Everybody else is present. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The public hearing we originally were going to have for tonight has been moved, and I think you've been called. There'll be a special meeting, correct, Anissa, on the 30th. So at this point, that's just a couple topics on there pertaining to the annexation at that time, nothing tonight. We get ready to move into public participation. I will call on you. If you have something to comment on tonight, please come to the microphone, state your name. Keep your comments to 2 to 3 minutes, please, and try to keep it based on the items in the agenda, if possible. We'll go ahead and begin. Does anybody like? Yes, ma'am, in the front row.
Two negative, Lillian Schneider, all trash and sewer bills paid, and I'm not the one with the 6 water shut-off notices. Mayor has a new SUV. Surprise, everybody. No committee meeting, or above all, no city council meetings were held to approve this. Then there's the disappearance of the Crown Vic. This is not a shell game that the mayor gets to play by himself with the taxpayers' assets. Can the mayor be the only one held responsible for the big no-no? Then there's the person who changed the plates. Did the mayor ever send out a thank you? The mayor should be the one setting the example of tightening the belt. All we hear is that we may have to lay off fire and police. And yet he takes a new car from the police department. Old car purchased in 2010, it was a 2009 for $24,000. When we're tightening, the city employees don't get raises, they have to give up stuff, but yet the mayor can take a new car. I see that very just ridiculous, because it's the workers that do the work that keep the city afloat. But above all, that car should have been gone through the police and fire, wherever the Crown Vic is, and then it should have come to city council to approve, not just switch the plates and put it on a new car. Can anybody be held responsible for this not going through the proper channels?
Yes, sir.
Rick Brown, 125 Lucia Lane, Shiloh. First thing, you got an ordinance tonight you're going to vote on Chapter 52, traffic, about recreational vehicles, that the citizens of this town will only be allowed to have 2. And that's one of the above: wave runner, 4-wheeler, camper, motorhome, whatever. People have stuff, and as long as it's stored properly on their residence, they should be able to have it. We have private property rights. Now, for the main thing I'm here about tonight. My Fourth Amendment rights were violated a few months ago. My wife woke me up in the morning, very early in the morning, because some man was on the back porch taking a picture of her tits through the window. She was on her exercise bike, and I went out to chase him off, and he ran around the back and got into his little 4-wheel drive car. It was Ken Basler from the city. He said that, later on I found out that he said that somebody called in an anonymous complaint and said I had trash and garbage all over my property, which I did not. You know, I have the right to be free from unreasonable searches. And I'd like the city attorney to explain to these people how a government employee can come on my property without permission, without consent. And I had one alderman explain to me tonight, well, he can go on anybody's property basically for anything. He doesn't have that right. It's right in the 2006 Property Maintenance Code that if consent is not granted, a search warrant must be gotten legally by whatever inspector it is. And that's not done. I asked the police officer, Mr. Hurling, that came out of there, because when I chased him off, I was told that he has the right. He showed me a right of entry ordinance, number 2641, that was written in 1964. It's 51 years old and says that gives him the right to come on my property whenever he wants. Now, I know that isn't true. Supreme Court cases, Camara versus Municipal Court of San Francisco, C versus Seattle, Katz versus United States of America. You cannot come as a government employee on somebody's property except under specific certain circumstances, and that was emergencies. And a housing inspection under the 2006 Property Maintenance Code, it has to be done from the curb, from the street right-of-way. I have a carport. I have a couple of riding lawnmowers on it, some push mowers. I got my four-wheeler, my wave runner, and I have a right to put that on there. And I have a screen up so nobody can see it, a privacy fence between the front of the carport and the street. And it can only be seen by trespassing on my property. The police officers would not arrest him. Now, somewhere along the line, Mr. Horner wouldn't answer my questions because I'm not his attorney. But you guys need to get an answer from him on what are the rights of citizens and the Fourth Amendment. Now, I know that they probably didn't get a complaint, and I can't cross-examine Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous in a court of law. I found that out already going up to the court up there. Oh, and guess what? Thursdays is Belleville Day at the courthouse. It's a big joke up there. I had 156 people in front of me for my ticket that got arrested for having somebody spend the night or having little this, little that. Yeah, there was some trash and everything, and maybe they should have got a ticket. But you know what? Subjecting the citizens of Belleville to arrest and criminal prosecution for living, that's crap. And the next time, I'm telling you now, the next time a government employee comes on my property and I ask him to leave and he still stays and takes pictures, I'm going to throw him off my property. And don't make me use the Second Amendment to do it.
Mr. Brown, it's time. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Michael Hagberg. On tonight's agenda, there's a motion to nominate Ken Kinsella as a public member of the nominee for the Joint Review Board for the TIFs. If any member of the council wishes to make a motion to amend, I will volunteer my time to attend the meetings as a public member nominee. I feel that a member of the public should not be the alderman who is working for the taxing body that receives the TIF revenue. It's a conflict of interest there. You're supposed to be representing the public's point of view, not the city's point of view. And when you work for the city, you're representing the city's point of view. Thank you.
Anyone else this evening? Yes, sir.
Stuart Leonard, Belleville, Illinois. It seems like Belleville is emulating East St. Louis. All those city officials and principals and whatnot, they all drive around in great big expensive cars, get great big $90,000, $100,000, $120,000 salaries. So we're sort of imitating East St. Louis in that regard. And I think maybe we just ought to give Union School to Lindenwood. They could turn that into a dormitory. We could probably build a new grade school for 30 or 40 million. I mean, that's no problem. And, I mean, if they want Union School, we might as well give it to them. And I was just wondering, the chief a while back was all for concealed carry permits for guns. I just wonder if he still has that, feels that way. And with all the crazies in Belleville, we got plenty in Belleville, and as anybody that watches the news, there's plenty of them in the world and in this country that I think the best safety measure is an armed citizen, a law-abiding armed citizenry. That's my comments tonight. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Hearing none, I'll close public participation. We have no presentations or recognitions or appointments tonight, so I'll move into the minutes. I'd ask for a motion to approve the city council minutes from November 2nd. Motion by Alderman Schmidt, second by Alderman Hazel to accept and file. Is that okay? Proper language? Any discussion, additions? All in favor of accepting and filing the minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Claims, payroll, and disbursements. It's broke down there in two different figures. I'd ask for a motion to pay the claims, payroll, and disbursements in one motion. Motion by Alderman Seibert, second by Alderman Bittner. Any discussion on the claims or payroll?
One
Yes, sir.
question, on other narcotics, there was an expenditure of $29,838 to, I think, one automotive,
See if the chief's outside the door yet, do we?
That was for a truck purchase for the police department by.
Oh, okay, I know it is now.
a
It's
truck.
for a vehicle,
Okay.
that they're allowed to use it through the narcotics fund,
Okay,
okay? The chief is the only one, I believe, with the narcotics fund that can authorize, according to federal law, those,
okay, so it doesn't have to be approved,
no.
okay.
It goes to the narcotics fund goes to the chief of police's office. That's their
okay.
guidelines.
There is, okay, further question then, I think we're transferring money into the narcotics fund tonight? No? Or did I?
No, we're doing a supplemental budget amendment to add to the original budget. They've received more funds than was expected.
Okay, all right, thank you.
They've had some pretty good sized seizures.
All right, that explains.
With that, roll call.
Hazel. Kinsella. Schmidt. Bittner.
Aye.
Randall. Tyler. Anthony. Ovian. Silsby. Dentelman. Seibert. White. Galletti. Elmore. Wiggington. Musgrove.
Motion carries. I don't know if I said it earlier, but Treasurer Hart was excused tonight. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to accept and file the treasurer's report from October 2015. Alderman Schmidt, do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Seibert. Do I hear discussion? All in favor of accepting and filing for audit signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have, Jamie, is that a second motion, a statement of cash and investments? That's part of the treasurer's report. It's just written kind of a little bit different there this time. Okay, we go to oral reports. I'd ask for the street department, Mr. Seibert.
Yes, sir, I have three motions, if I'd like to read them all at once and have them voted on.
Anybody opposed to reading them together? Go ahead.
Motion to approve Volkert in the amount of $7,500 to perform real estate services for South 29th Street. A motion to approve lighting request for Green Mountain Manor subdivision. And a motion to approve a contract modification with Keel Engineering for the East Bell Avenue project. So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Seibert, second by Alderman Randall. Any discussion on those three motions coming from streets and grades? Roll call.
Hazel. Kinsella. Schmidt. Bittner.
Aye.
Randall. Tyler. Anthony. Ovian. Silsby. Dentelman. Seibert. White. Galletti. Elmore. Wiggington. Musgrove.
Motion carries. Master Sewer Committee, Mr. Diddleman.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the change of order on number 7, East Creek Watershed with higher plumbing and heating.
We have a motion by Mr. Diddleman, second by Alderman Hazel. Do I hear any discussion? Roll call.
Hazel. Kinsella. Schmidt. Bittner. Randall. Tyler. Anthony. Ovian. Silsby. Dentelman. Seibert. White. Galletti. Elmore. Wiggington. Musgrove.
Motion carries. Finance, Alderman Silsby.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the workers' compensation property liability insurance renewal with Illinois County's Risk Management Trust. So moved.
Motion by Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Seibert. Do I hear discussion? Roll call.
Hazel. Kinsella. Schmidt. Bittner.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Tyler. Anthony. Ovian. Silsby. Dentelman. Seibert. White. Galletti. Elmore. Wiggington. Musgrove.
Motion carries. Alderman Silsby.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget amendments as recommended by the finance director. So moved.
Motion by Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Schmidt. Any discussions on the budget amendments? Roll call.
Hazel. Kinsella. Schmidt. Bittner. Randall. Tyler. Anthony. Ovian. Silsby. Dentelman. Seibert. White. Galletti. Elmore. Wiggington. Musgrove.
Motion carries. We move to Planning Commission. I'd ask for a motion for the approval of the Hopper House location site plan. Motion by Alderman Schmidt, second by Alderman Anthony. Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Could Anissa come up to the microphone, just to get a clarification on some things? Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Can you just briefly explain what our role is in approving the site plan? As I understand it, we are just approving the footprint of just the
footprint of the
House.
Hoffer House with the architectural elevations that were also included in your packet. Nothing else. We're still in the process of finalizing parking numbers and layout in addition to infrastructure for the site.
The map that we were given has driving lanes and parking spaces and restaurants and all kinds of things. We're not approving any of that.
That is not
In our packet.
finalized. The only thing that we are definite about is the actual location as you measure from the out boundary of where the Hoffer House is located.
And issues on this drawing, when and what committee do those
They will
things
come
be
back
heard?
to you for finalization and approval. We are still waiting for them to complete and give us a finalized plan, which will also be reviewed not only by myself, but by the city engineer and wastewater. Once that has been completed, we'll take it to Planning Commission for their recommendation input, and then we'll bring that to the council with their recommendations for your final approval, and if there are any additional things that you'd like shown or finalized.
One more question. So the planning commission questions that were raised at the last meeting are being
Are being
addressed,
considered and addressed through the,
Now.
right now. Yes, sir.
and then you'll address them at the next planning commission meeting.
Correct. And also, if you have any additional follow-up that you would want as well.
Anissa?
Okay, one second. Alderman Gladdy's next, and Roger. They asked to do the footings because they lost the 3 months with the state holding up the signing of the enterprise zone. They're trying to get some footings in before the winter frost line would get in, so that possibly they can be putting up steel yet this winter. The steel's ordered for the Hopper House, so they asked for this cooperation, and that's why Anissa took it to the Planning Commission this way. And we felt, while I don't know if we've always done this in the past, sometimes staff has just signed off on footings, but the project with the magnitude of it, I asked Anissa that I thought it would be best to bring it through here.
I was just confused because in the packet, we have this elaborate drawing.
And understand that the architect, okay, I talked to the people from Keller this weekend. They should have the first 3 hotels locked in, if they don't already, real soon. Those hotel chains that they get will dictate some of the specifics on the site plan, because some of the chains, some of their different chains have different mandates that they have to follow by their own corporate, action. So they might have certain things as far as landscaping and far as exact parking structure, so that they're gathering all that now. It's kind of a moving piece until they get all the players in place, but they're getting closer. Alderman Glutty?
I think you might have kind of just answered this, but I'm just wondering, why are we getting involved with this? I mean, isn't this like a private development? I mean, aren't they building it on their own? Why are we messing with footings and things like that? Why do we care?
Well,
Do we build hotels or
The
restaurants?
I can just tell you from the site plan point of view, site plan is something that is required in the zoning code. As far as the footing and foundations, staff can sign off on that. We're not asking you to sign off on the footing and foundation permit. We're asking you to sign off on the location of the building.
So is that something that the government needs to okay?
Well, according to our zoning code, yes.
Yes, according to our zoning code, but I'll be honest with you. We've been criticized in the past because we didn't bring, and I don't have any specifics in mind, but at times, because we didn't bring enough to the council. So my posture on this project, as big as it is, and much as it's growing, and as important it is to the city as well as the developer and the shrine, we just felt that the best thing to do is to keep the council totally in the loop. But it will go back when they get the final details to the planning commission after staff reviews their final details, and then it will come back here for one final site plan approval. So,
And then we can be like,
well, then we can watch it grow.
all right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anissa, and even though in our packet it shows the exterior view, we're still not voting on exterior or elevation. I mean, this is strictly.
Actually, the planning commission did vote a recommendation of approval of the elevations as presented. So
On the
that was
Hoffer House
On the
only.
Hoffer
Right.
House only.
So the planning commission's already approved that.
They recommended approval of that,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so we have a motion, right? Who made the motion? And who is the second? Second by Johnny, okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the Hopper House location site plan. Any further discussion?
Mayor, just, I know you mentioned it before, but we still don't have a hotel locked in, for sure.
It was our understanding and what we were told at Planning Commission that by the end of this month, we should have more detail on the restaurants and the hotels. That's their plan. I can't necessarily hold them to it, but as of yet, we do not have, at least I do not have the names of hotels and restaurants.
I can tell you, they've shared with me, I'm not at liberty to release them, but they have 3 hotels, I believe, soon to announce.
And they're planning on building all 3 at the same time?
The last conversation I had with them, that was a distinct possibility. It's not a guarantee, but it's a distinct possibility.
Because, well, one reason I got behind the soccer fields was because Mr. Langfelder said that they were going to start on a hotel right away.
No, they're making progress to do that.
Well, okay.
I mean, when you look at how recent we just passed this, getting everything, the engineering and everything, they didn't, until they had the development agreement with us signed, there was, a lot of money to spend as far as engineering and architecture, and they've done a lot of stuff in just recent days, so, I mean, they're getting close, but I mean, it's moving actually pretty fast. Pretty fast.
I just felt that with all the time, and when we were in discussions with them, that they were talking about the enterprise zone, and once they had the enterprise zone, that things were gonna start moving. And we still don't have a hotel. I just have some concerns about that.
Well, okay. We have a motion, we have a second. I'd ask for a roll call.
Hazel. Kinsella. Schmidt. Bittner.
No.
Randall. Tyler. Anthony. Ovian. Silsby. Dentelman. Seibert. White. Galletti. Elmore. Wigington. Musgrove.
Motion carries. Economic Development, Mr. Kinsella.
I hereby make a motion to approve a development agreement with Barry Hayden for the remodeling and facade improvements to the property located at 222 East Main Street.
Motion by Alderman
Second.
Kinsella, second by Alderman Seibert of Ward 6. Do we have discussion? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a point of clarification that the funding for this project is coming out of TIF 17 as has been budgeted, and
Yes.
that there are no funds to be transferred from TIF 3.
It's budgeted in 17, isn't that what you told them in finance? Hasn't changed.
Thank you.
We have a motion and we have a second on this project, which is great. That building sat empty for a lot of years, so I'm very happy. I think we all are. Roll call.
Hazel. Kinsella. Schmidt. Bittner. Randall. Tyler. Anthony. Ovian. Silsby. Dentelman. Seibert. White. Galletti. Elmore. Wigington. Musgrove.
Motion carries. I'd ask for a motion to approve, set the date of the Joint Review Board annual meeting for all active TIF districts for Friday, December 11, 2015, at the respective times listed in the attached memo. Motion by Alderman Schmidt. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Wiggington. Do I hear discussion?
Mr. Horner, does this present a conflict of
Let's
interest?
have this vote first. This is not the next vote.
Oh, I'm
There's
sorry.
two separate motions if you read them.
Go ahead.
Do we have any discussion on the date? All in favor of establishing the date signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I now ask for a motion to nominate Ken Kinsella as the public member nominee for the Joint Review Board annual meeting for all active TIF districts to be held Friday, December 11, 2015. Motion by Alderman Seibert, second by Alderman Schmidt. Mr. Horner, you want to answer the question?
Yes, it's not a legal conflict for Alderman Kinsella to serve as a public member. He is a member of the public.
And he's done it before.
He's done it before. I think historically, what the city has done is, and what this motion does, is simply nominates somebody. Ultimately, it's going to be determined by the Joint Review Board itself. It's its initial motion. But what the nomination has done historically is it's ensured that somebody from the public is there to serve in that capacity, because what you'll find is oftentimes nobody attends these Joint Review Board meetings.
We had one before, one of the first ones. It was a member of the public. It was not an alderman.
It's not required, no, it's not required to be an alderman, but it's, you're not,
No, but
an
you're
alderman's not
prohibited. You're
prohibited
also
from
still a
serving.
citizen.
And again, this is just a nomination. It's the Joint Review Board's going to determine who serves as a public member.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say something. Since I've been an alderman, Alderman Kinsella has been a great help to me in answering questions. And one of the things he's always said is we represent the public, and we have to remember that. We have to look out for how this is going to affect the citizens. I think he's an excellent person to represent the public. And as a member of the public, I'm very happy at the idea of he representing me on the TIF board.
Okay,
Thank
we have a motion and we have a second. Alderman White.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to also put in a nomination Mr. Hagberg. I believe that he is also a fine citizen. He's taken great interest in all the things that are going on in the city. You see him at all the council meetings, many of the committee meetings. And having sat through one of those TIF complete review boards myself, I'm proud that somebody would actually volunteer to do it.
So
I'll
you're
second
making,
that.
so you're making a motion. Who's the second?
I am second.
Second, Alderman Bittner. So,
You take the motion to amend first.
so the first motion would be for voting for Mr. Hagberg for this position. So if you vote yes on this first motion, you're voting for Mr. Hagberg to represent the city on the Joint Review Board, and then we'll go back if need be, and we'll vote the second one. So roll call.
Hazel.
Question, so this is to
This, your
strike
a
the
yes
name
vote.
Ken Kinsella
Yes,
and
this,
add the
this,
name.
this would be to amend the original vote and vote for Michael Hagberg. So if you vote yes, you're voting for Michael Hagberg.
No,
So, okay, continue.
Hazel.
no.
Kinsella.
Abstain.
Schmidt.
No.
Bittner.
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Anthony.
No.
Ovian.
No.
Silsby.
No.
Dintelman.
No.
Seibert.
No.
White.
Aye.
Galletti.
Aye.
Elmore.
No.
Wigington.
No.
Musgrove.
No.
3-5.
10-5, one abstention. It fails.
So it fails, okay. This time we have the original motion of voting for Alderman Kinsella. Roll call.
Hazel.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Abstain.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Bittner.
No.
Randall.
Aye.
Tyler.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Ovian.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Dintelman. Seibert. White. Galletti. Elmore.
Aye.
Wigington.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Motion carries. Communications.
12A, communication from Eckerd Florist Incorporated to place a refrigerated cooler in one of their designated loading zones located in the first block of North 2nd Street from Saturday, November 21st, 2015, and removed on or before December 30th, 2015. They will coordinate with the street department for cones and lighted barricades.
Yes, sir.
Did we skip 11G?
Yes. Ordinance and legal review.
We can do the communications and go back to it.
Yeah.
Go back.
Mine's not done that way. I must have, well, Okay, my agenda is different. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and vote on this if we can, you already
Right,
read it.
right.
I'd ask for a motion by Alderman Schmidt to approve.
Yes.
Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Seibert. Do I hear any discussion? All in favor of approving the communications signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I apologize, but for some reason I have mine's out of order here. So we'll go back from the 11G, motions from Ordinance and Legal Review Committee. Alderman Musgrove.
We vote one at a time?
Yes.
Yes,
We'll go one at a time if that's what they want. Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the cemetery fee increase effective May the 1st, 2016.
I have a motion by Alderman Musgrove, second by Alderman Schmidt. Do I hear discussion? Roll call.
Hazel.
Aye.
Kinsella. Schmidt.
Aye.
Bittner.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Tyler. Anthony.
Aye.
Ovian.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Dintelman. Seibert. White. Galletti.
Aye.
Elmore.
Aye.
Wigington.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next one, sir.
Motion to approve limiting the sale of ice single-serve alcoholic beverages for Class C liquor license.
Motion by Alderman Musgrove, second by Alderman Anthony. Discussion. Roll call. Yes, sir?
Yeah, and in limiting the sale of ice single-serve alcoholic beverages, we still will have single-serve beverages.
In the coolers, yes.
And in limiting the sale of ice, what issue are we experiencing that we are looking to eliminate?
What issue? We've had, I think the chief, I don't know, chief, you want to, I think I speak for both of us. We were hoping that this ordinance, they've been selling them, as you know, in ice coolers and tubs in the aisles and by the register. And what we found is that, don't think there's any doubt, it really tempts people when they get in a car with individual can to potentially, it's right there, cold, ice cold.
understand the perception.
They walk and they take them, and we have a littering problem. They're drinking, walking down the streets. We have more and more of that. So we're hoping by eliminating the iced up beverages at the door that they have to, maybe think a little bit more. Yes, ma'am.
One example is the Moto Station at 6th and West Main. There are quite a few people that hang out there, they panhandle till they get enough to go in and buy an iced, ready-to-drink beverage, and then they check it out and they go to that, the deck that's behind the bridge right there, and they cause a problem with people in the neighborhood, about being drunk, and that's just one example. They litter the cans around there and in that, by the dog park and Rotary Park, from that one place, if we cut that down, I think that will improve. We've talked about this for months, and legal and ordinance, and many other cities do limit this, and I think it's a good move.
Mr. Hazel.
I understand that, and that's a good idea, but we have ordinances against littering. We have ordinances against drinking in public. We have ordinance against every issue that you're bringing up that is an issue that this pertains to.
Well, the other thing is like the mayor said, you see people take it, they get that one beverage, they get in their car. Do you think that beverage will be going home and put in the icebox unopened? No, I think the majority of them do drink it on the way, and so this would eliminate that, and I think
We
it
have
would
an
be,
ordinance and there's a state law against that too.
this just makes it a little easier.
You're right. The chief and I think, Chief, it's fair to say, we've talked about this. We think this is a good step.
Well, it's gonna help with some of those problems, it's not gonna solve.
It's not gonna fix everything.
There are some legitimate littering concerns that go with it, just merely because it's one can, and people tend to walk and discard them. It also fosters some panhandling that we see, and some of the public drunkenness. People will panhandle in big on the parking lots or right near the convenience stores and go back and buy another beer and drink, and they continue that. That's basically in the summer months when you see that more so. Then the winter it'll tend to die down and then pick back up. So it's some seasonal problems. This will address some of that and knock down perhaps some of that panhandling that we see associated with that, because they just beg to get enough money to buy another beer or whatever, and they stay close to the place. So we see a lot of that.
Mayor.
Yes.
Now, will this include grocery stores, bars, convenience stores?
They, Class C, anybody with a Class C, which is grocery store and convenience stores, they just can't ice it. Now, we didn't start this time by eliminating all of it in every cooler. We just thought, right now, if you go into some of these convenience stores, they have it right in the aisles, they have it iced up in tubs or ice chests right by the register, and we felt that that's, really pushing the limits. They have all those coolers in the back of the store, and they have beverages that are cold.
Are bars under Class C?
No,
Okay.
they're Class A.
Okay, and now let me say this, what's the protocol? How do we inform? We have a ton of
There'll be
convenience.
a letter sent to everybody with the Class C license will be sent from my deputy liquor commissioner if you choose to pass this.
And is there a starting time when if this is approved?
10 days after the ordinance, when we come back later in the meeting, it's right now in the motion stage, it'll go to the ordinance, the end of the meeting, and then it'd be 10 days from tomorrow that they could, but in the meantime, we'd have to send letters to all of them.
Was there a letter sent prior to that the city was
I had a meeting with all the liquor license owners about 2 months ago, Chief.
2-3 months
6 to 8 weeks ago. This room was packed with probably 100 people. We informed them then that this was in committee. I heard from a number of them that said they did not have any issue. Several of the convenience stores said, in fact, several of them have already told me that, and I haven't gone around to check, but they told me they already were gonna take them off the aisles and off the front coolers, that they didn't disagree.
One more thing, Mayor. Now, if this goes to each store or convenience store, whatever, what about their corporate people? Are they going to say, well, no, wait a minute,
The letters
how,
will go
we
to-
can't let the manager of a particular location handle this, it's gotta come out of corporate? I mean, let's say a Circle K as big as they are.
We'll send it to corporate. Whoever the
Okay.
liquor license is in the name of,
Okay.
all those folks on the corporate level will get a copy of this.
Okay.
And we've had, Mayor, some of the corporate people, as a matter of fact, Circle K.
Was in our office.
They've actually pulled,
Well, the Circle
lot of
K
those ice.
regional manager,
Right.
who has everything east of 150, everything west of 159, already pulled them. The lady who has the east side has not yet pulled them. But the guy on the west side already told us that day at the meeting, I'm pulling mine immediately because I think it's a good idea. So that was the guy who had the 4 stores on the west of 159.
So what we're doing here is, you're still gonna be allowed to sell it, but
You
it
can-
can't be within
it's-
25 feet of the counter.
Right. and the
Will
front
that
door.
affect any of our current businesses that may be smaller in size, that their cooler may be 15 feet away?
We're not gonna go, huh? It was changed? I think we changed it to go.
We just, the version that was sent, it was revised based on the discussion at Ordinance and Legal to make it
In the aisles or by the front door?
at or near the cashier station. Yeah. The 25 feet was eliminated.
Because we
Maybe
were,
the
that
wrong
came
one's
up, that it
posted.
could be, there could be a smaller store that somebody could come in there with a tape measure and prove us to be.
Right, that's what I'm looking
So I
at
think
here.
he did, that was adjusted.
It was changed, so it shall not be displayed for sale at the cashier/checkout counter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We have a motion and we have a second to limit the sale of ice single serve, and this says alcoholic beverages, so it could be the Mike's Lemonade as well. I'm just using that, or margarita, whatever it is. It's just iced alcoholic beverages.
Okay, so I see that we're probably trying to eliminate the point of sale, what do you call it, whenever you find something, you want to get it right at what term?
Impulse.
Impulse buying. So what do we do about the single-serve bottles of liquor that are
So that's
sitting on the
something,
counter
we talked
also?
about that, and we said that, we didn't believe the first time we could write an ordinance that was all encompassing. I think the feel was that, while I don't disagree with you, some of the people are buying the half pints and everything else, but I don't think we can, solve everything in one fell swoop. I'm asking, I think what we asked and talked about was, the problem with the litter has been the 24-ounce cans or the individual size cans. that are seen in many neighborhoods and areas around convenience stores, et cetera, within so many half block to a block. They drink them and they discard them. And that's just very, you know, and then we're sending people out there, or else we're calling them to clean up their lots, et cetera. It just seems like it will help immensely plus you got kids playing at bus stops and everything else, and we got a bigger problem with people, and the officers know it, walking, carrying these cans and drinking as they're leaving the stores.
Mayor.
So, yes, sir.
But they could still move these items to the back coolers.
They could put them in the cooler. We once again.
I mean, there's a fine line.
But when they're at the front door, and they're iced up in that wash tub or that ice chest, we just felt that they were much more tempting, and it was much more of an impulse buy. And then it seemed like the impulse was, that can's so cold you can hardly grab it. Well, let's just drink it. And I don't think they're taking them home. So many of them. So we're just, it's to see if it helps us clean up a situation that we see growing, and that's walking and drinking. You know, some unfortunately getting in the car and drinking, but more so the littering as much as anything. So we're just saying we'd give it a try, see if it improves it. So we have a motion and we have a second, and I votes to limit the sale of the iced served alcoholic beverages for Class C. Roll call.
Hazel.
I believe this to be a pointless ordinance.
Thank you. Me too.
Your vote?
No.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Bittner.
No.
Randall.
Aye.
Tyler.
No.
Anthony.
Aye.
Ovian.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Dentelman. Seibert. White. Galletti.
No.
Elmore. Wigington.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Ayes have it. We move to the next one, ordinance, Mr. Musgrove.
Motion to amend chapter 52 relating to recreational vehicles.
I have a second. Second by Alderman Ovian. Do I have discussion?
I have.
Yes, sir.
And I've talked to Alderman Ovian about this. I think limiting this to 2 vehicles, I mean, there's people that own more than 2 vehicles, 2 recreational vehicles. And the way this is written, they're not going to be able to keep these on their property. I think 2, you know, if you're responsible, you park it, you keep it tidy, clean, you don't have grass growing around it, you keep it out of sight in your backyard. I think we're punishing people that spend money, that want to have Belleville as a base, want to live here, and now we're going to sit there and say, well, you can't keep your property on property that you own on your property. You have to go store it somewhere. I just don't think it's fair.
Yes, sir.
Just a clarification on the wording of the ordinance. So you could have 2 RVs in your driveway and a third in your backyard that's not street visible? Is that correct?
The limitation that was discussed in ordinance and legal was to outside, stored outside. I mean, if you have indoor storage, garaged or whatever, you can have as many as you want in there. This is an amendment based on discussion in ordinance and legal that was intended to address outside storage.
It didn't specifically address park, because we have been following this visible from the street kind of guideline or law. Is that what we're?
No, this is an existing ordinance, and the changes are the limitation to 2 outside and certain limitations on how the foliage and all that is maintained. Weeds are maintained. You can't have trash inside of it. It can't be used for storage itself. I mean, you have an existing ordinance that limits where and how you store recreational vehicles outside. This just made some modifications to it based upon some other ordinances that are used in other municipalities in the Metro East.
And a motorcycle is an RV, or no?
Motorcycle is not identified
No.
as
Okay.
a recreational vehicle.
So 3 RVs on a rock, asphalt, or concrete surface outside of a garage is illegal by this ordinance.
By this ordinance, yes.
Alderman Ovian, did you have something you want to say?
The major problem that we're having, especially in my ward, is the parking of the recreational vehicles on the side of the house adjacent in the front of the property. Instead of going and not taking care of keeping the trash, the weeds, putting campers next to it, parking their vehicles, be it their pickup truck or their automobiles. It's just trashing up the residents and making everybody else's residents around it basically become a sore eye as well. So we have to do something. We've got to clean up some of the people that take advantage of us. And if it means that we have to be a little bit more stringent, then we have to do this.
Yes, sir.
I agree with the spirit of that we do need to clean up some areas. And I've got a property in my ward also that has too many recreational vehicles around it, but it's basically the way that they're stored. I believe that, again, we have maybe some ordinances that need to be cleaned up and maybe strengthened that limits improper storage. But I think that this is reaching too far by limiting it to only 2. I would make a motion that we amend this ordinance to 3, but I don't know if 3 is even correct when we have a property that the owner is being responsible and is storing those vehicles correctly. And to penalize somebody else because we don't have the teeth in our existing ordinances to take care of the property that we're looking at, and everyone else should have to suffer. I don't know personally how many people we have in the city that would be harmed by this ordinance that maybe is keeping their vehicles appropriately.
Alderman
Mayor.
Tyler, I think you're next.
Looking at the definitions here, it almost looks to me like if you had a Sea-Doo on a trailer, would that count as 2 vehicles?
It would be 1 because only the trailer is licensed, I think.
If it's on a trailer, it would count as 1. That's the existing definition in this ordinance. The only thing that was added was the word watercraft. Everything else is how it's currently worded.
Okay.
And, Scott, you done? And Rafi and I have talked a whole lot about this. And is this a situation where we're concerned about trash and weeds and appearance, exterior appearance? Is that the real motive behind this? And keeping properties clean? And if somebody had 4 vehicles and there was no trash, there was no debris, they were clean and orderly, would not be offensive. I think what's offensive is not maintaining them properly. And I agree with Alderman Hazel. If they're not causing a burden, and they're not unsightly, and they're kept clean, I don't know. I think, and Rafi and I have talked a lot about this, and I know he's very adamant about making sure that these are maintained. But some people do have more than 2, and that's my big problem.
And Alderman Schmidt.
But wouldn't they have an opportunity if they had, say, 3 or 4 and they were well maintained, they could ask for, would they be able to ask for a variance to the?
No.
There's no variance to this.
There's no
This is
variance.
not as, this is property code. I think the big discussion even at ordinance committee was, do you want to see some of these yards look like a parking lot for RV vehicles?
Right.
And I think that's really the question. Some neighborhoods have covenants and they don't allow any of this. Now, that's some neighborhoods, and when you buy in that neighborhood, you know that going in. But a lot of people are neat as can be, and they have 2 or 3 of them, and you don't really They're well stored. But I understand Alderman Ovian's point. There are calls where people, they just tend to fill up their yard, sides, all over, and it's a double-edged. I mean, first thing is the number and quantity, second thing is the way they're cared for. And, a lot of people rent to store them someplace. And I think, so there's, but I mean, if you got an RV and a big boat, that can take up a big part of your yard. Yes, sir.
Mayor, if you look at the city of Edwardsville, they've got certain subdivisions there. You can't even keep your automobile outside of your garage. And if you have to have an RV, it's gotta be stored, period. All we're saying is if we go ahead and limit it to 2, then it doesn't become unsightful. If we continue to go ahead and expand it, then it takes away from the residents. It trashes it. Because most of these people are not all going to go ahead and take care of the property. The one I'm specific about, we can't even get this gentleman to cooperate with us. We've had to fine him. He didn't have a license on the trailer or the watercraft. We finally convinced him, after being cited for it, that he had to get a license. Then he parked it in the side right next to his house. He put the watercraft, he put his boat, the watercraft, a camper, he put his pickup truck, and then his automobile. Not in a row, or not in a manner which made it look good. He doesn't care how his property looks. We have to send a message to people, they've got to clean up their property.
Alderman Randall.
So is this ordinance the outcome of a single resident being an issue?
No, I have more than one. It's not just one.
And it's not in just one ward. We've heard this before.
If I could, I'd like to address a couple of things here. If we go underneath storage, number 1, outside storage shall only be allowed in the driveway, and the recreational vehicle must be stored 10 feet from the curb, linear in the rear yard if the rear yard is not adjacent to the street.
Not linear, line.
Is that?
Line or.
Line or, it's
Right.
one word on my copy, so.
It is.
Okay.
It should have been separated.
Okay, from the curb line. So if I'm talking about many of our streets here in Belleville and the rear yard, there's an alley, not a street, but an alley. Are we defining street or alley as the same thing here? Because with the alley, there are no curbs.
I think more separates alley, real from that.
You know, I don't have any problem, okay, with maintenance issues here. That it's not to be used as a storage device. I think it's the number. I think that there are people, okay, who do a good job of storing their vehicles. And I think that you have others who are a problem. And I guess limiting that number to 2 being stored outside, I think that presents a problem. I think you're going to have people basically expanding or creating driveway space in order to, or put up fences or whatever just to conceal whatever they've got there.
I'm not sure who was first, Bittner then. No more than Bittner.
I'm having trouble with the same thing, the number of units. But I think one of the issues is that we're trying to keep these RVs not just parked in the grass. I just wonder if we shouldn't send this back to ordinance for some discussion about not limiting the number of things a person can own in this city, but that they have to have it on the hard surface, the chat, asphalt, concrete. Wouldn't that solve the grass problem of weeds growing everywhere and things like that? If you've got 4 RVs, you can have 4, 5, 6, but they have to be parked on stored on a hard surface. And that's just for discussion. As it's written, I can't go along with this, but I would be more than welcoming to hear ordinance go back and have a little more discussion on it.
Okay, so I believe that with our current ordinances that speak to how much of your property that you can develop, and if there is an ordinance that restricts storage, that it would also take care of itself in number by having to limit how much of the property that you can improve in order to provide that parking. And so that would be one way to limit, but I think that what we should be looking at is how these vehicles are stored. I do have a question though, and could I get a definition or at least a little bit of help in trying to understand the definition of side? When we have front and rear and side, we have front and rear and sides, but we also have front side, left and right, rear side.
I believe
left and
side
right.
starts at the front of the house and goes
So are
back.
you speaking of
Isn't
the
that correct,
width of
Bob?
the house? Anything that goes outside the width of the house is a side?
Side of the front of the property.
Well, it doesn't say a side of the front of the property.
Or the space between a house and the next
It's,
house.
if you have the house across the front of your house, the side starts from the front of the house going back. Right. And I think that's what Bob said, he's shaking his head, that's the way they've interpreted it over the years.
I would like to make a motion that we send this back to be cleaned up a
Okay,
little
first,
bit.
before I accept the motion, Alderman Bittner's has his hand up.
Okay.
I just think we need to start being careful. We are starting to regulate so much in this city. People are gonna start moving out, you know. They're getting sick and tired of us trying to tell them how to live their lives. So, we have ordinances that deal with weeds, deal with parking automobiles on grass. We need to start enforcing the ordinances we have and stop trying to legislate how these people live in this city. So, I'll second Mr. Hazel's, or Alderman Hazel's motion that we send this back to ordinance.
So Alderman Hazel, you're making a motion to send it back to ordinance for further interpretation, or what's
I think that the whole ordinance needs to be rewritten in addressing storage of vehicles.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to send it back to ordinance committee for revisiting the content of this ordinance. Any discussion?
I would like to add that there seems to be a lot of questions here tonight, and we probably need to go back and look at it again
Okay.
and redefine some
And
things.
when we have the next ordinance meeting, some of you probably ought to consider coming and have a discussion there. So we have a motion and we have a second to send it back to ordinance for further discussion. Roll call.
Hazel.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Bittner.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Tyler.
Aye.
Anthony. Ovian.
No.
Silsby.
Aye.
Dintelman.
No.
Seibert. White. Galletti. Elmore.
Aye.
Wiggington.
Aye.
Musgrove.
The ayes have it the way I counted.
Yes.
Okay, it will go back to committee. We have one more, Alderman Musgrove, you have one, chapter 30?
Motion to amend chapter 30 relating to fireworks.
Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Anthony. Do I hear discussion? Roll call.
Hazel.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Bittner.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Tyler.
Aye.
Anthony. Ovian.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Dintelman. Seibert. White. Galletti. Elmore. Wiggington. Musgrove.
Motion carries. Petitions, we have none this evening. Resolutions,
I said it.
you okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Resolutions, I show that we have resolutions 3244. I'm comparing both copies here. 3245, 3246, and 3247. Do I hear a motion to read by title only? Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Schmidt. And does anybody have a problem with these resolutions as a group? Anybody? All in favor of by title only and as a group signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
14A, Resolution 3244, a resolution for a line item transfer for library. 14B, Resolution 3245, a resolution for supplemental line item transfers for TIF 8, TIF 12, and narcotics. 14C, Resolution 3246, a resolution urging Illinois state leaders to release non-general fund revenues payable to local governments. 14D, Resolution 3247, a resolution supporting the selection of Scott Air Force Base of St. Clair County for the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGA West, proposed facility.
Alderman, we have a motion to approve the resolutions? Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Schmidt. Discussion. Roll call.
Hazel.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Bittner.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Tyler. Anthony. Ovian.
Aye.
Silsby. Dintelman. Seibert. White. Galletti. Elmore. Wiggington. Musgrove.
Motion carries. I'd ask for a motion to read by title only ordinances number 7909, 7910, 7911, 7912, and 7913.
12 one's going back.
Okay, I'm sorry. Which one? This one's going back to be held. Okay. Eliminate 12, so we'd have 09, 10, 11, and 13. Alderman Silsby, was that a motion?
Yes.
To read by title only?
Yes.
Second by Alderman Schmidt. All in favor of reading by title only signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Wiggington?
Mary, I'd like to make an emotion, amend the emotion 15-E, change the name of the petitioner to Cooling Concepts LLC.
Okay, did you, yeah, please note that. That was, when when Attorney Harner went to look it up, the county records didn't reflect the new owner's name yet. So that should be changed in the ordinance from Waste Management to Cooling Concepts LLC. So, is that okay with your motion, Mr. Silsby, Dr. Silsby? And you agree with that? Thank you very much. Okay, so, are we reading those together, or what is,
Yes.
okay, so we eliminated number 12, we held it, sent it back to committee.
I would like to separate G also, 7911.
So we're gonna then we're doing a motion to read by title only and as a group, 7909, 7910, and 7913, is that correct? All in favor to read those as a group and those three by title only signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
15E, Ordinance 7909, 2015, ordinance annexing certain territory of the city of Belleville. 5920 Gateway Industrial Drive. 15F, Ordinance 7910 of 2015, ordinance for cemetery fee increase effective May 1, 2016. 15I, Ordinance 7913, 2015, ordinance amending Chapter 30 of the Fireworks Code.
Motion to approve those three ordinances, Alderman Silsby, second Alderman Schmidt, and then understand again, Mr. Clerk, that we got Mr. Wiggington's note in there about the name.
Yes.
Okay? Any discussion? Roll call on those three ordinances.
Hazel. Kinsella. Schmidt.
Aye.
Bittner.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Tyler. Anthony. Ovian.
Aye.
Silsby. Dintelman. Seibert. White. Galletti. Elmore. Wiggington. Musgrove.
Motion carries. We go back now. I'd ask for a motion to read 7911 by title only. Motion by Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Schmidt. All in favor of reading that ordinance by title only signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
15G, Ordinance 7911 of 2015, ordinance amending Chapter 21 of the Liquor Code.
I hear a motion to approve. Motion by Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Schmidt. Discussion, further discussion. Roll call.
Hazel.
No.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Bittner.
No.
Randall.
Aye.
Tyler.
No.
Anthony. Ovian.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Dintelman. Seibert. White. Galletti. Elmore. Wiggington. Musgrove.
Ayes have it. Ordinance passes. Unfinished business, I don't have any down here. Motor fuel claims in the amount of $64,000. I'm sorry.
Just based on something that was said in public participation, Garrett, is there any sort of Fourth Amendment implications for the fact pattern you heard during public participation about city inspectors coming on the properties to take?
That's something that I had told Mr. Brown that we would look into. I'm not familiar with the citation that he describes, but I understand that he raised those arguments in the circuit court. So I'll find out what's going on and report back.
Okay, thank you.
A quick question, Mayor. Several months ago, we approved the spending for buying 8 new police cars. What happened to the cars that we replaced? Or did we get rid of some? Because there was a lot of discussion that we were getting rid of these cars because of the maintenance issues, that they were falling apart, that it was going to get too expensive to keep them. So did we get rid of these 8 cars and replace them? Or what did
Chief,
we
you
do?
want to address it, some cars were, I don't know if we're, actually any of them were traded this time. Some go to like school resource officers who aren't driving them on patrol.
Some of the Crown Vics go to school resource officers. We keep, what we're doing now is taking a lot of the Crown Vics and we're using them for the spares. We are using SUVs for marked units, some in code enforcement. So there's a mix of vehicles that we have out there. I'm trying to put together 8 to 10 spares so that we have those for all the different things we do. A lot of the, like I said, Crown Vics and the Tauruses are used for those purposes.
But that was not the discussion when we were voting to buy these cars. It was that they were falling apart. There was no mention that we were going to keep these cars. It was about...
Some of the cars we do get rid of. I mean, it's based on mileage. We can't fix them. They're just too old, or they have an accident or something like that, and we have to get rid of the cars. The cars that we can hold on to, we hold on to. When cars are out on patrol, we still have to do patrol, but when we're doing special events, if we're doing blue team, if we're doing art on the square, those types of things, we need to have marked units so that people can drive around in. But they're not our first line cars, they're second cars, and we use them for those purposes. When we go out and work the nightlife operations and those types of things, or we do field operations and so forth, we use those cars. We need to keep those cars as long as we can.
Unless they're junk.
Right.
So did we increase the fleet by 8?
No, because some cars were traded. You know, if I knew this was coming up, I would have been able to get you those numbers precisely, but I'm not aware that you were going to ask that, so I don't have that in front of me. But we can get that. Some cars were traded, some cars were kept. Some cars were moved to code enforcement. As other things we're doing, like with some of the K-9 cars, when the dogs get retired, we just don't get rid of those cars. There'll be like 40,000, 50,000 miles on those cars. We're going to keep them and try to get 75 or 100,000 miles off of those cars before we get rid of them. But no, it did not increase by 8. But some cars we bought with drug forfeiture money. A couple that I bought, as a matter of fact, I bought, which it does not come out of the general fund. That's money that we seize. Bought a traffic vehicle with that. We bought another Ford truck with that. We bought a prisoner van transport with that money. That all came from asset forfeiture. It's like we're buying the scales, the weight scales that we're going to buy to start using. All of that is coming out of our asset forfeiture money. So we did increase the fleet by some, but we bought some of those vehicles from asset forfeiture as well. But the exact mix, I don't know what that is in front of me.
I just think and Chief, I understand your explanation, but that wasn't what we were told 2 or 3 months ago when we voted to buy these cars. So that's just all I'm saying. I think if I knew that was what you did, that would make a difference. But I
don't know what you were told.
Well, we were told that these cars needed to be replaced. We needed to buy 8 new police cars because there were cars falling apart, and we had to get rid of these 8 cars.
Yeah, there are cars. The primary use of these cars, they cannot be primary patrol cars. Some of the cars were Tauruses. We could not put 2 people in there. With the cages and so forth that we have in there, the way they work, they were too small. So we did go to SUVs, and we did increase to try to get patrol out of that. But not all of those cars, we didn't get rid of every one of them. We did get rid of some. So I don't know what you're told. Right.
Okay.
Okay, yes, sir.
Yeah, I believe it is completely essential that we hold on to some of these vehicles to use and not use the frontline vehicles. But I do remember the vote that we did take I believe it was Mertz, is that where was it Mertz?
No.
I don't know if it was
No,
Mertz.
Merch didn't get the bid this year. Somebody,
I just remember one of them
Somebody
did include
knows.
a number of them to be traded in.
you remember, Jamie?
Wasn't it?
But it wasn't
Okay. Ruger?
yeah, but we did vote on a
Ruth or
few
Ford?
to be
Ruth or
traded
Ford
in.
got it this year, I think it was, yeah.
I just don't remember the number.
Okay, any further discussion about vehicles?
Well, that's the question. You got a new car, Mayor? Not a
Okay,
new one,
Chief-
you got a different one.
I didn't get a new car, I got a different car, and that was the chief's, chief deals with the cars, the fleet,
Okay.
okay? He took my Crown Vic and put it in the rotation for spares with detectives, is that correct? It's gonna be a spare. It's got 75,000 miles on it. I've had it for 6 years. The chief told me he was gonna give me his vehicle that he had last year, or last 18 months, whatever he had it. And that's what I did. I didn't get a brand new one, I took his vehicle. First time in 6 years. This council voted that the mayor would have a car in 2005 or 6. It was voted on then that the mayor would have a vehicle.
Okay,
The chief executive officer would have a vehicle. It's on record.
all right. Well,
And I've had one since then.
was the Vic falling apart?
You know what? Once again, I didn't come to him and ask about this vehicle. He came to me and said, I'm gonna change the vehicle out. And I simply said, okay. You know, the Vic was not falling apart, but I had it 6 years, I had 75,000 miles on it, and he was gonna put it in the rotation to use when they get cars that are in the shop, et cetera, as a spare.
Okay, well, I don't know, you know, we're really looking at, we're not getting the money from the state. We're looking at possible layoffs. The unions don't have raises yet. I just don't know, you know, maybe, Mayor, maybe we need to start cutting back a little bit. Expenses.
So there was no extra car bought for the mayor this year.
There's always expenses tied to everything, Mayor. There's expenses with everything.
Okay, well,
Well, okay. I just think, you know, maybe we ought to start cutting back all over. Instead of, you know, spending all this money. Like I said before, we've bought new cars. Maybe we ought to hang on to these things a little bit longer.
Down on Alderman.
Well, that'd be good too, yeah.
Mayor, let's move on. You know, we're rehashing too much.
That's fine.
Okay?
Can't do that.
yes, sir.
I'm gonna make a motion to vote on this motor fuel claims amount.
Would you please use your microphone? We can't hear, Trent.
I'm making a motion that we vote on the motor fuel claims in the amount of
I've been trying for quite some time. so
$64,970.80.
I'll accept your motion for $64,970.80.
I'd like to second it.
And second by Alderman Dillman. So with no further question on motor fuel claims, I'll call for roll call.
Hazel.
Aye.
Kinsella. Schmidt. Bittner.
Aye.
Randall. Tyler. Anthony. Ovian.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Dintelman. Seibert. White. Galletti.
Aye.
Elmore. Wiggington. Musgrove.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Executive session.
We don't have anything.
Motion to adjourn.
Nothing tonight. We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Wiggington. All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.